So, Mr. Hodges, you're half right about slavery in the Bible. You're half right in the sense of understanding the context into which the word is used within the text. Uh, but you're wrong in that the slave in the ancient world was for employee. It was not employee. Poor English translations translated the Hebrew word Ebed into servant, but that is not. There are many different classifications um, of slavery within the Bible. The one that most people like to jump on is indentured servitude. But this was only for two types of people. One, it was for a type of person who was into debt slavery, where you owed a debt and you go into slavery, you work it off. The second one was indentured servitude, which is pretty much the same thing, where you take on a bond person based on some that they sold themselves to you for, they was in poverty or something of that nature. But within 7 years, that person had to be free. And this was only for an Israelite to Israelite. And then you have women slaves. These can be either sexual slaves, i.e., as who was it? Jacob had two sex slave wives. Abraham had Hagar, her sex slave wife. These are slaves or bond women, almas, who were then given into slavery, or a father sells his daughter into slavery to another man as a sexual slave or a wife slave. So that was different. And those women are enslaved for their entire life. There are certain circumstances where the woman can gain her freedom, but in most cases she was a slave for life. Then we have the most notorious one, the one that was used for the transatlantic slave trade, the one that is used in order to beat your slaves. And if they can rise in 2 days, then the master is not punished. And that is the chattel slavery, the word Ebed, used for each one of them, except for the female is Alma, where the slave can be transferred down to the sons. See, in other types of bond slavery, that was for life. That was when, if the master dies or the slave dies, then the person goes free if the master dies first. But if the master doesn't die, then you're a slave till the master dies or till you die. But in chattel slavery, the ones that you can take from prisoners of war, the ones you can take from foreigners who dwell in your land, the ones you can take if you go capture them, which was the Europeans' way of authorizing slavery based on the Bible, because it's authorized. That's people of a foreign land, i.e. Europeans versus Africans versus people from India, people in the Americas. So the context is actually what you really need to look at, but the word Ebed means slave. It does not mean servant. That's a poor English translation of the word that came much, much later. So there you go.